Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to recap the show that we missed out on last week, which was the Broncos getting the W over New Orleans. We're also going to be going over the game this past weekend, their victory over Carolina, and also going forward against Baltimore. Now, everybody's been downplaying the Broncos ever since the start of yesterday. I already saw a couple of things picking out. They're saying, oh, the Broncos aren't going to win. The Broncos aren't going to win. Well, you know what? I say no to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, strap in, get ready, because here we go with another action-packed episode of Broncos Talk. Welcome back in, everybody. My name is Adan Diaz, and I am the host and owner and proprietor of Broncos Talk, this show that you are watching or listening to today. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very special announcement that I will tell you guys at the very end of today's episode. I am so excited. I really wanted to do it at the beginning, but I'm pretty sure if some of you guys have already been following the network, you already know what it is. But to our listeners that aren't up to speed, I will let you in on the gossip at the end of the show, just to keep you guys in suspense. But we got to get a couple of things out of the way before we get started, just as we always do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue Network. So please make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and like on all the shows we have here on the network on Orange and Blue. Johnny and Isaiah have worked really hard. They've built this company from the ground up. I say company because we're like a family here. So please make sure you like, subscribe. There's a lot of great content for everybody. In case this is not your show, we have something for everybody. And speaking of something for everybody, we are on a simulcast. So we are also broadcasting on the MHRT network. So please make sure you like, subscribe, and share them on all their shows, because they as well have great content that you could like, see or show. There's always something for anybody. So whether you're a really hardcore fan, even more so than some of us you see here, which, believe it or not, there are some really hardcore fans out there. I'd love to meet them. Or if you're just getting into used to living here in Broncos Country, we love to have you. We love to see you. Please make sure you show your love for all the shows on both networks. Also, if you're listening to us on audio after the fact and you're not able to join us live, that's perfectly fine. Please make sure you like, subscribe on all the podcast channels, wherever it is you get your podcast from. This show broadcast everywhere, all over the podcasting world. Please make sure you show your love. Hit that live notification button so you get up-to-date episodes every time these episodes drop. So for any business inquiries, you can email me at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter /X, you can hit me up right there at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. And lastly, today's sponsor is brought to you by, or the show is brought to you by today's sponsor, W. W, ladies and gentlemen, it was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented Neural Factor formula. There are no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're so used to getting your energy from energy drinks and coffee like me, I know it's a hard habit to kick, but please, I encourage you to go out and try this. This stuff works really, really well, and it's healthier for you. So, healthier, who doesn't want that? You know what I'm saying? So please make sure you go out and get W. And thanks a lot to W for being a sponsor here on the Orange and Blue Network. So, now that we got our laundry done out of the way, at least I think I have everything. If I missed something, please remind me. Oh, and also, before I forget, shout out to Ty. Ty, unfortunately, could not be here today, but I have some good news, folks. He will be coming soon in the coming weeks. So, Ty, We love you. We're thinking about you. Get well soon, brother. We can't wait to have you back here on Broncos Talk and back on the Orange and Blue Network and MHRT as well. So much love to you. So to let you guys know why we didn't go live on the air last week, you guys have heard me say it a million times. Johnny is the backbone of this company. He makes everything from the awesome intro you guys saw at the beginning of the show to the logo to everything. So Johnny is the one that gets everything ready for me. So unfortunately, Johnny was under the weather last week. I wasn't aware of it. I was actually more worried about, Johnny not getting back to me, more so over, being able to show. So unfortunately, he was sick. He wasn't able to get everything up to speed, and it's totally fine. I'm glad he's okay. His health matters more to me than, not that I don't love coming and talking to you guys. Don't get me wrong, but Johnny's my bro. Well, he's like one of my brothers, and his health means more to me than, having everything ready. So I know he tried to get everything up to last minute, but I just didn't feel right. I try to get ready for you guys and bring you guys be as professional as I can, even though I don't look it or I don't sound it. But I really do try. So unfortunately, we ran into that hiccup, but thankfully he's fine. You guys saw him on the pregame and the postgame show this past Sunday. So thankfully, Johnny's good. He's back up to speed. So shout out to Johnny for doing everything. And I was going on vacation, so I figured, you know what? I gave myself a week off. The Broncos won a very exhilarating game anyway. They beat the shellac out of the New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton game is going to be something that's going to be remembered in Broncos country for a long time. While I was on my flight to Denver, I was actually thinking about this game before we get into the comments here, folks. You guys remember when, what was it, 4 years ago? And I brought this up. I don't know who I was having this conversation with, but you guys remember 4 years ago when Sean Payton was still with the Saints and he faced the Broncos? It was during COVID. And all three of our quarterbacks got COVID. Who was it? It was Locke, Blake Bortles, and Brett Rippon. All three of those guys got COVID, and the Broncos went into that game, and they got stomped. It was Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay was like the not the emergency quarterback, but he was the first one to take the first snap, and then we had oh shoot, I forgot his name. I can't believe I forgot. Somebody in the chat remind me. He's in the Hall of Fame for being like the very first wide receiver / quarterback. Hinton, thank you. And he came in and he played. He tried his best, but it unfortunately wasn't good enough, and the Broncos got stomped. Sean Payton ran all over Denver in that game. So him going to New Orleans and doing the exact same thing to the Saints and not taking it into consideration, not playing conservative, just for the simple fact that the Saints didn't have a quarterback. They didn't have most of their main guys except for Alvin Kamara. Didn't take no prisoners and just ran amok. Now, that to me was very beautiful, and it was a statement that needed to be made because it also ties into what we saw in against Carolina. But before I get into that, before I keep talking, let's get into the comments. Let's saying hi here to some of the fans already here in the chat. D-Rock saying, big game this Sunday. The football gods are feeling generous in our favor. I can feel it. Damn right, D-Rock. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. It's always a pleasure to see you here on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated at the beginning of the show, I have a very special announcement. So please make sure you tune in. Stay tuned to hear what it is at the end of today's show. Blitz B Reppin jumping in. He's saying, D-Rock, much love, brother. Also saying, Adon, my man, can't wait till Sunday. Can't wait that almost sounds like a tongue twister. Oh, man. But I missed you guys. I really did. It was kind of weird not recording not even audio on a Wednesday. But you know what? It had been a while since I'd given myself a week off. I know when I was doing the whole audio thing, and this is sidebar here, and that's something I haven't done. I used to do sidebar all the time. I kind of just go like a week or two because I felt like there was nothing to talk about. And when I listened to the other pods, I felt like everything that was Denver was already talked about, and I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute to the conversation that wasn't already talked about. So that's why during this past year, it was kind of like it was a roller coaster, So I do apologize about that, but Now that I am part of the Orange and Blue Network alongside with MHRT, like we have a consistent schedule. Thanks to Johnny, he's able to give me all the stuff ready to go, the music, the lights. Well, maybe not so much the lights, but and all I have to do is just sit here and talk to you guys because I'm not the most tech savvy guy in the world. Unfortunately, I'm getting old. um, but going back to what we were talking about, Carolina, folks, that whole thing that happened with J.C. Horn coming up and complaining that the Broncos ran up the score uh, towards the end of the game, like that to me was so childish and it was so unprofessional. And the reason I say this is because they were lucky that Cortland Sutton fumbled that ball, which by the way pissed me off, and it pissed me off even more seeing it in person, even though I was all the way up in the nosebleeds. But still, seeing it on the jumbotron, it pissed me off because it really robbed um, a Bo Nix. By the way, there should be a link that you guys see at the bottom of this video where you could vote for player of the week. Please make sure you go and vote for Bo Nix. I've already done it. Johnny and the guys in our group and our Broncos chat have already done it. So please make sure you guys go and vote for Bo Nix. The man put on a hell of a show. Doesn't matter if it was just against the lowly Panthers. Hey, football is football. And going back to my original point, look at last year when the Broncos went into Miami and literally got their asses handed to them by the Dolphins. Nobody on that team went in and laid into Miami. Nobody. Not one damn person went up to the Dolphins and said, "Hey man, you guys are bogus for running up the score." Hell no. That's what you do in football. When you play a bad team, you punish them for it. Now, if you want to hold back and get a little conservative, like not run the ball and throw, that's a call you decide to make. But you also cannot give an opposing team an inch because they will take a yard or in some cases a mile. Okay, that's just how football is. Now, if your feelings got hurt, hey, tough shit. Okay, that's just how it is. The Broncos got, again, they got the hell beat out of them and got set probably for the most points put up on an NFL team in history to date. And not one person, not even me, even though I was sad as hell and mad and all that, I took my anger out on the coaching staff, not on the Dolphins. Okay. And then I will admit that whole thing where Mike McDaniel went up on the crowd and started like supposedly telling people to just pick a play. That to me that pissed me off, but that wasn't on the Dolphins themselves. That was just Mike McDaniel just being a dick. But the Panthers losing this game, and you know what makes this win even better is the fact that the Broncos beat two NFC South teams back to back. And now both of those teams, the Panthers and the Saints, are facing each other again in their second round. In the first round, the Saints blew them out of the water. Derek Carr was just throwing bombs, and the Panthers just got shellacked. So don't be surprised if the same thing happens again this weekend, even though Derek Carr is probably not going to play. And Shaheem Shakir is unfortunately out for the season. They still have Chris Olave, although he didn't really help anything or very much this past weekend against the Chargers. But hey, right now the Saints are in a free-for-all. They're probably going to unload some players just to try to get out of cap hell. But this Broncos team is surprising a lot of people. And even better than that is they're climbing up the ranks. Okay, the last ranking I saw before we went live on the air today, folks, the Broncos were at the NFL ranked power rankings 11th place. 11th. Usually in the last couple of years, the Broncos have been flirting between the 20 to 15 spot when they were good, and anything lower than like 2022 was probably like 25th. 25th or between 25 and 30 was where the Broncos played. So the fact that there are still people sleeping on this team pisses me off, especially after you guys saw what the Cleveland Browns did to the Ravens. And that was with Jameis Winston. Now, I get it. I will give them credit because divisional games are a whole lot harder to play than non-divisional games. You're usually everybody on that team knows the opposing teams because they play each other twice. So it's how the Broncos and the Chiefs know each other, and the Raiders and the Chargers, and so forth. But still, the Ravens were supposed to go in and blow the doors out of the Browns. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry were supposed to run wild, and they didn't. And even more surprising, folks, if Isaiah, shout out to my friend Isaiah, Bronco Gentleman on Twitter. Make sure you hit him up, send him a message, tell him I sent you, say hi. He put it on our group chat that said that Lamar Jackson is on the injury report. I think he's questionable. I'm not saying he's not going to play, but he is hurting. So he took a bigger beating than I thought in that Browns game. So he might not be at 100% come Sunday. And if he can't go, as good as King Henry is, he can't do it all on his own, man. So it's going to be really interesting how the Broncos match up in that game, just to kind of see how it is with just the matchup. I saw I don't know if it was a marquee or a meme, but I saw a picture that said the Broncos defense is the unstoppable force, and the Ravens offense is the immovable object, or somewhere around there, like vice versa. But it's a question that's as old as time that has always been asked. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? And it's pretty much, unfortunately, from what I know, a tie. And here, speaking of the devil himself, Johnny Mile High Viking Baki saying, "What up, guys? Lamar is hurt." What? Yeah, that's exactly right, boss. I just laid it down to them. I told them that he is on the injury list. Apparently, he's pretty banged up. If I remember Isaiah correctly, he said that I think his knees or his back, something of that caliber, where he was not 100%. So, but even so, again, and I know I caught a lot of and the boss says groin and back. Okay, I was close. I did say back. I thought it was his knees. Now, I did catch a lot of flack from this from my good friend Lindsay a couple episodes ago. If you guys haven't seen that episode, please, I encourage you to go back and check it out. Shout out to Lindsay Bebo, by the way. But when I told her that when this team plays other teams, I want them to play them at their best. Even though this is a next man up league, totally get it. If you're injured and you can't go, you can't go. But at the same time, because the win just feels that much better. You know what I'm saying? Because, think about this for a second, folks. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, in a hypothetical, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry can't play because they're injured or whatever. And then the Broncos go off and they beat the doors off the Ravens. Because I can't even tell you who the backup is for the Ravens. Is it still Tyler Huntley? But I don't know. But anyways, I want this team to beat Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry when they're playing at their best. Okay. And they just signed Deontay Johnson for some reason. So Deontay Johnson is about to catch 2 L's on the same week. He's about to pull off a Devontae Adams. Because that's literally what happened to Devontae Adams. Oh, man. Oh, I can't believe that happened. Maybe it wasn't like within the same week, but oh, geez, I just thought about that shit. It's gotta lose twice. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. But D-Rock jumping in here, and he's basically saying what the point I'm trying to make. He says, "No, I want the defense to beat Lamar." And I do too. I really do, because I don't want people the next day to say, "Oh, this could have been a different outcome if Lamar Jackson was playing," or just take the credibility away from the Broncos just because Lamar Jackson didn't play. And that's kind of what happened last time, if I'm not mistaken. When's the last time the Broncos played? I don't remember if it was the one where Vic Fangio was still the head coach, and then he pulled that Lamar Jackson or the Ravens pulled that stunt where instead of taking the knee, Lamar Jackson kind of ran it just for some extra yards or something like that, and it rubbed Vic Fangio the wrong way, and rightfully so when he was the head coach And I agree. That was some bogus stuff, but hey, it is what it is. So that's the last time I think the Broncos and the Ravens matched up, and the Ravens won that game. Unless there's another game I can't remember or think of. I know there was the one with Philip Lindsay when he fumbled, and I think he got hurt. But I think that was at a much earlier time, because that game with Philip Lindsay, the one I'm thinking about, was the one in Baltimore. The one with Vic Fangio, where Lamar and the Ravens ran the ball instead of taking the knee, was in Denver. So two different timelines. D-Rock jumping in back in saying, exactly, I don't want excuses. Me neither, brother. The boss, Johnny Bach, is saying, truth. I don't give a damn if we beat them with or without Lamar. A win is a win, and it's just one step closer for us to the playoffs. I don't care who it's against or how we have to get it. Again, I totally agree. And if it happens too. However, it's not going to stop people from trying to take credibility away from the Broncos. And that's the part that kills me. And obviously it's people that are not Broncos fans. It's to kind of give you an example. It's kind of like a lot of people who aren't Chiefs fans are dragging the Chiefs for being undefeated, even though we all know that they should literally have lost 4 games by now. They should be 3-4 instead of 7 or whatever it is that they are right now. But it's kind of like that. And I just don't want I just don't want them. I want the Broncos to beat the teams at their best. Now, if it comes down to it where Lamar Jackson can't go, totally get it. It's the next man up. But then I'm really going to have to get ready for an argument the following week when you guys are going to see it all over the news media. And, it's hard enough trying to get people to respect the Broncos and saying that the Broncos are just more than a wild card team. They're an actual playoff team. Okay. And this isn't a what if situation like where we were last year. This is a must definite. The defense is playing some of the best football they have been playing. And yes, there's going to be hiccups along the way. There's going to be games where they kind of get caught off guard. But when they do, they're usually able to bounce back. And if they get kicked in the gut, they're punching the offense back in the face. That's just how it is. And we saw it this past week against Carolina. That unfortunate hiccup by Lil Jordan Humphrey, where he fumbled the ball, and the Panthers just kind of marched down the field. Now, I will credit that to PS2 kind of being rusty. He hadn't played for 2 games, guys. So it just goes to show you that even 2 weeks away can really kind of see. That's the thing about getting hurt and coming back. Like, yes, you come back healthy, but missing time, the more time you miss, even if it's just a week or 2, that can take shoot, I lost my train of thought. That can take the sail right out of you. See, and that's what's so dangerous about the bye weeks, guys. I was saving this for a little bit later for the OT part of the Today Show, but look at the Bears. The Bears going into the bye, even though yes, they did play really crappy teams or whatever, but they were like world beaters, and they lost to the Commanders in a game that they should have won by a touchdown. Exactly what the Broncos did to the Commanders last year with that Hail Mary, where the Broncos actually should have won that game. It's the exact same thing that the Commanders did to the Bears, but they actually won their game. So, but the same scenario, damn near. But it's just, and the Broncos have to be ready. They really do. Like PS2, yeah, he got beat on that coverage play by Leggett, but after that, he was back to his old lockdown self. It was back to business as usual. And I don't even count that last touchdown that they made because it was literally just a garbage time touchdown. Now, if I was if I was the head coach, how would the Panthers feel if I told them, "Oh, how come you went and scored on that play where you picked up the fumble from Surtain or from Sutton? How come you guys didn't just run the clock out? Instead, you marched down the field and what if I were to make that argument to Dave Canellis, who, by the way, is doing a terrible job in his first year as Carolina because he doesn't know who to pick as his quarterback for the next game. I know Andy Dalton is hurt right now, but unfortunately, he opened up a Pandora's box that didn't need to be opened. Okay, it's kind of like imagine if last year, if Sean Payton comes in to fix Russell Wilson, just like Dave Canales was brought in to fix Bryce Young, and automatically benches. He did it towards the end, but that's only because of the whole injury clause crap that happened. But imagine if that was like week 2, where Sean Payton benches Russell Wilson instead of trying to fix him and brings in what's his name, Stidham. Like, it's crazy. And unfortunately, in this case, it probably would have ended. I don't know if I want to say it would have worked out, but I mean, we didn't know that the Broncos were going to cut Russell Wilson. I thought he was going to be a Bronco literally until his last day of his contract. But here we are a year later, and he's throwing the ball for the Steelers. And by the way, as much as you guys may or may not like to hear it, he's actually doing pretty good out there. I know his last game, not this Monday night, but the previous game, he looked pretty sloppy and pretty old. But when he gets going, man. But hey, I really do hope so, because this could be a future matchup where the Broncos and Steelers meet up again in the postseason. So, and it's a definite revenge game against either him or Justin Fields, because the Broncos, you better believe that they're going to be ready for that matchup when it happens again. But we are getting sidetracked, folks. This game and the next game, and we're going to jump a little bit ahead to the following week's game against the Chiefs, are really going to be the timetable in terms of what this team can do. Now, Bo Nix, again, guys, make sure you go click at the link at the bottom of this video. Make sure you go and vote for Bo Nix as many times as you can. Let's get his name up there. Let's let people in the football world know that Bo Nix is here. I mean, the man had 3 passing touchdowns and a running, and it really should have been 4 passing and a rushing touchdown. But again, Courtland Sutton unfortunately dropped the ball, which, by the way, sidebar, guys, I saw actually, we can actually get into this. I saw 3 rumors today. One of the last one kind of being true, because I read up on it. The first one was I think I heard it. I don't remember where I heard it. I saw it on Instagram. I think it was on KOA, where they were talking about, should the Broncos go and get Jamison Williams from the Lions, trade for him. And I totally disagree with that. I totally do. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Jamison Williams is a player he's trying his best to be a big name wide receiver. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll fit very well with this Broncos team, and in terms of trading. Now, if he's a free agent next year, hey, different story going into 2025. But I'm still on the Broncos need a tight end train, and I really do think that they do. So, and then the other one, I think the second one was the tight end one. I'm getting old. But the other one was that Vance Joseph is starting to get coaching offers from other teams, or he's starting to be thought of in terms of being a head coach. Now, I know the head coaches from other teams don't watch this show, unfortunately for them. But if I could, I need you guys to go back and see what Vance Joseph was, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, before Vic Fangio. Like, when he came to Denver as a head coach, leaving Miami as a defensive coordinator. I love Vance Joseph. I give him credit for what he's done for this defense, but there are certain people that unfortunately are not meant to be cut out to be head coaches. Okay. And unfortunately, Denver has gone through a couple of them in their years in the league. But now there's a team that wants to take a shot and give him another shot in terms of being a head coach, and Vance Joseph takes the job. Hey, kudos and good luck to you. But I don't recommend it, man. I don't recommend it. There are just some people that are just not meant for that type of responsibility, because it doesn't work right. It doesn't mesh with them. For Vance Joseph being a defensive coordinator, he's really good at it. And he's got a good bunch of players that rally around him. And, when shit hits the fan, they kind of come around and they try to make the best of it. And they've only let this team down 3 times. And those are the 3 losses. And it's not just the defense, but it's a whole, the entire team losing, obviously. But the defense is what keeps the lead, and the offense is what's supposed to take the lead. And if the defense can go one further and take it and keep it at the same time, then hey, more power to you, you know. But I just want what's best for Vance Joseph. I really do hope he stays here as the DC for a very long time, because whatever it is he's doing, it's working. And I think we've all already finished apologizing for last year after Miami. But he rebounded in a big way in that first game against Chicago last year, which I was at, by the way, and it was fantastic. um, but I just need this defense to go out there and play lights out. Now, I will say I am worried about Derrick Henry, because there's just something about Derrick Henry. Every time I think he's washed or he's done, he just comes back and runs wild. He was supposed to run wild against the Browns last week. That didn't happen. Neither him nor Lamar Jackson could get anything going. And I really don't think that them bringing Deontay Johnson, especially I think he just got there today, if I'm not mistaken, either today or yesterday, but still, that's a short amount of time to learn the entire Ravens offense in just a couple days before game time. I mean, look at when they brought in what's his name to the Chiefs. I can't think of what's his name. Nuck. They brought him in, and he only had like 3 or 4 catches. He was used more as a decoy and ran cardio mostly than he was actually brought in to do, just for the simple fact that he hasn't gotten used to the offense yet. So that's probably where a lot of players are going to be. The only other move I saw from in terms of trade, besides Deontay Johnson, was the Jaguars gave up one of their offensive linemen, I believe, to the Vikings to make up for their one offensive lineman that unfortunately had a season-ending injury. But other than that, I mean, see, the thing that kills me about this game, folks, is that all these analysts and stuff, they're not even giving the Broncos any credit. Like, all the credit goes back to the Ravens being, the best offense in the AFC and being world beaters and run amok and do all this stuff. But they lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Chiefs, even if it was by a freaking foot. And then they just lost to the Browns. 3 teams that they should have stomped out of the water. And they couldn't do it. And they went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow and almost lost that one. So if the Chiefs can beat them and the Raiders can beat them, how are people looking past Denver? Outside of Broncos country, I'm saying. Like, how? I don't get it. I honestly don't. I think it's a disgrace. I think it's unprofessional as hell when you don't respect your opponent. And it's not just the big NFL analysts either. It's like almost everywhere on social media that I've seen, especially like on TikTok and stuff, where it's like you see those people that make their prediction videos. Like, every one of them has the Ravens winning, killing the Broncos. And it is an insult to Broncos country. It is an insult to Bo Nix. And I cannot wait for Bo Nix to go in there and light that team up on fire. The Ravens defense is, especially their secondary, is so bad. Probably worse than Carolina's. I mean, when I was watching the highlight videos, Jameis Winston just throwing bombs to their wide receiver Tillman and just catching it in single coverage, beating the coverage, and just running down the field. And we've already seen what Bo Nix can do when he has good tight ends. I mean, shit. Our tight end that had 2 touchdowns this past game. Was it Saubert? Can't remember his name. But that man made a one-handed touchdown catch. Beautiful. On National Tight Ends Day of all days. Excuse me. The boss jumping in saying, "You know what? When we steamroll the league, we can spoon feed all of them naysayers their crow." Oh, Johnny, this is more than spoon feed. This is Thanksgiving dinner crow out of the oven ready. And it's going to be a giant table for all the haters to sit and grab a spoon, a fork, or whatever it is you want to grab. And hey, help yourself, brother. Because there's going to be so much to go around. And that's going to be the beautiful part of it, is to see it's going to start in Baltimore. And this is a hot take, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that the Broncos are going to be the very first team to give Kansas City their first loss. I told my nephew this when we were on vacation in Denver this past weekend, and he doesn't believe me because he's a Chiefs fan, which is perfectly fine. And by the way, shout out to my nephew for being a good sport, and he rocked the Broncos colors on Sunday. But as soon as we were heading to the airport, he busted out the red again. Oh man, I was like, where did I fail you? But in 2 weeks we're gonna be at each other's throats probably. But it's a good thing to see, because at the very beginning of the season, everybody in Broncos country was worried about Bone Eggs. Some of us were worried about Sean Payton. Like, hey, this offense isn't doing shit. Like, what the hell's going on? And I came on the show, and when Johnny invited me on the other shows, and I told everybody to BREATHE, breathe. You know, I get it. Everybody in Broncos country wants to win. You know what the beautiful thing about my trip to Denver this past weekend was? And I don't know if Johnny felt it when he was there with Isaiah, or anybody else in this chat that has ever been to Denver. But the second I touched down last Friday morning, when I touched down, when those airplane wheels hit the ground, I felt the energy right away. And I kid you not. And it was just the energy of Broncos country. And getting off of that plane, and once I got my rental car and I drove, and me and my nephew were just driving around because it was too early for us to check in. But just driving around, I think it's Aurora from the airport, and then we got to Denver. But you can feel it. You can feel the energy in Denver. And that's just Broncos country energy. And it was just Friday. So, and then on Sunday, when I was walking towards the stadium with my nephew, and you just saw Broncos jerseys everywhere. We pulled up. By the way, sidebar, Rescue Bronco, I swear to you, I walked that entire outside arena and I did not see the fire truck. I don't know if it's at a different tailgate or if there's like a level or something. I don't know. I went everywhere. I couldn't find it. And I know you're going to say, how the hell can you miss a giant orange fire truck? But in my defense, I got distracted by Carl Mecklenburg because I forgot he was there that day taking pictures with fans. And then when I was trying to look for it, I ran into some cheerleaders, Broncos cheerleaders at that. So my mind kind of went elsewhere. And then I unfortunately ran out of time. So I swear to you, like, I'm going to have to, if you could give me like your GPS location next time I'm in Denver, or maybe I can call you or something and you can meet me by the entrance, or I have no idea, but I feel so bad. I've been there 3 times, and all 3 times I've been to Empire, to the Broncos Stadium. I've missed you every time. And I unfortunately didn't see anybody that I wanted to see. I didn't go see Mario. I didn't see Bree. I didn't see all the stuff that I wanted to do. I did drive past outside the DNVR bar, but because I was with my nephew who's underage, I wasn't sure if he was able to go inside, so that's why I didn't go. But I did sit outside for a couple minutes, hoping that I maybe saw somebody come out and talk to them. But anyways, it was a fantastic time, and it helped me just being in that stadium and surrounded by the energy that is Broncos country was just so flippin' amazing, man, and it recharged my orange and blue batteries, and now I have to make sure that this energy lasts me for, like, more than likely a whole 'nother year when I can afford to go back to Denver again, but it's one of those things that every Broncos country should do is to go, but going back to my main point, because I know I went off point. There's an energy in Denver, in Broncos country at that is just this team, these fans, they're not just thinking wild card like we predicted at the beginning of the season. It's starting to feel like divisional, maybe even AFC championship. Now, Super Bowl, I wanna sit here and tell you, hey, this is a Super Bowl team, but there's still a couple of things that need to be worked out. I'm not saying it's not impossible because it totally is. And that's the one thing I wish that Denver proves me wrong. But just the Broncos getting into the postseason and making some noise and doing as much collateral damage, should they not make it that far, is definitely going to put some respect back in the Broncos' name. And it's going to make it more interesting for players in free agency next year to try to come and sign with Denver. If Denver has any high first and round second picks next year, try to get fill up the gaps in whatever holes are needed in either the offense or the defense. And as D-Rock saying, the Broncos this season so far have played better on the road as underdogs. They're literally underdogs right now, as long as Lamar Jackson is playing, and that's freaking crazy. Like, it hadn't even been a day since the Broncos won, and they were already underdogs before the end of that day. And before I forget, our prediction sheet that Ty and I did at the very beginning. If you guys unfortunately haven't done at the end of this show, go back and watch our prediction episode where me and Ty predicted every game winner. We wrote it down, and thank God we both picked win because we were both right. So the Broncos won, and they're 5-3, and he chose win 2, and they're 5-3, and my writing is crap. Now, both of us have, unfortunately, the Broncos. We picked the Broncos to lose this game because Baltimore looked like actual world beaters when we made these predictions. But, and I'm pretty sure I can speak with Ty on this, is that we want to be wrong, and the Broncos can definitely go into Baltimore and stun the Ravens. Beat them at home. Keep them reeling, because right now things are not good in Baltimore. Okay, I don't care what Ravens fan you talk to or tells you. There is no way that they're sitting pretty and that they're that they have their noses down on Denver. No freaking way. They are definitely worried about the Broncos defense. And they are definitely worried about the Broncos offense putting up points. Because Lamar Jackson isn't the type of player to play from behind. He's been the player to try to play with the lead. You guys know what I mean? So that's just the type of player I think he is. And as we saw this past weekend against the Browns, he's really not that good. When in terms of, hey, the pressure, like the game's on the line, and you got to try to get up there. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to be that guy. Now, at the very beginning, if you underestimate Lamar Jackson in that offense, they'll put points on you. And then the defense tries to keep the lead as low as they can. But The fact that everybody is sleeping on this team is just it kills me. It kills me. D-Rock says, if we get into the playoffs, it's the '08 Giants. The 2008 the 2008 Giants, the ones that beat the New England Patriots, those 2008 Giants. Oh man, I think that was Michael Strahan's last year, wasn't it? Oh, that was a fantastic year, and God bless Eli Manning for that game. The boss saying hashtag underdogs. Yes, sir. The Broncos are definitely underdogs. I actually have to right now. I'm going to eat some crow a little bit on Sean Payton because I was one of the few people that gave Sean Payton shit when things weren't looking good in Denver. And I said if there was one finger to point, it was at him. And the Broncos going 0-2 didn't sit right with me. And it wasn't until they went into Tampa Bay where the winning streak started and they beat the Bucks. They beat the Jets. They beat the New Orleans. They beat the Panthers. And who am I missing? I know I'm missing a victor. Oh, and the Raiders. And they beat the Raiders. They beat 5 teams. 2 of those teams couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. They're that bad. The other 3, I mean, it still kind of kills me how it was like back to business with Tampa. The Jets haven't been able to find their way out of a paper bag. They're really bad. So that's a whole different story. But just the fact that every time the Broncos win, and again, I'm going to keep saying this because the more I think about it, the more it pisses me off, folks, is every time the Broncos win and everybody kind of just like, oh, well, the Broncos won. Okay, who they beat? The Panthers. The Panthers. Like, dude, even when the Broncos beat the Bucks, that should have been like national headlines, and it wasn't. And then they go and they beat the Jets, even if it was by a missed field goal or whatever. Like, it wasn't national news. But hey, they go and lose against the Chargers. Now the whole world's talking about it. Justin Herbert and, Bo Nick sucks and the defense and blah, blah, blah. Like, that kills me, man. Like, why is everybody ready to jump on the Broncos when they lose, but not when they win? Like, that's not cool, man. That's not cool. You give the other team their flowers. And also, yeah, D-Rock, shout out to Adam Rank. And also to Lindsay, who posted that picture. Everybody in that room that picked with Adam Rank, everybody picked Baltimore to win, except Adam Rank. He's still sticking with Denver. And God bless him for that. And he's a Bears fan. I'm pretty sure he still is. So I think that the wins that the Broncos are going to get in the upcoming future are going to be oh so much better. And this team, this Broncos team, can definitely beat these Ravens. And it wouldn't even come close. It wouldn't be like, oh, they, by a point or what have you. It's like, no, I don't think so. I honestly think that the Broncos are going to run away with this game. A lot of people are saying that it's going to be close, and maybe so. But if Lamar Jackson, if he plays, it doesn't look like he's going to be at 100%. And Lamar Jackson, when he's not 100%, well, any quarterback, but especially a quarterback like Lamar, if he can't use his legs to scramble and run like he normally does when he's healthy, that puts him in a box. That puts that entire offense at risk. I will say the one thing that scares me about the Ravens is Mark Andrews and the resurgence of one Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews is kind of starting to find his footing in Denver and in Baltimore. I don't know why I said Denver. So, and this was a man who, for the first couple of weeks, looked like he was going to be on the trading block, and who knows, maybe he still might be. But I don't think he'd be traded to Denver. Maybe not right away. If that were to happen, it'd probably be like on a Monday after the game. But it's either going to be, if I had to guess, it's either going to be Mark Andrews or David Njoku to be traded to Denver. If that even happens, maybe Denver just sits on their hands and they don't do anything. They don't trade for a tight end or a wide receiver or anybody at all. They just might decide to, hey, let's just go with what we got, see how far it gets us. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't noticed, we're already at the middle point of the football season. This is week 9. We've already played half a season's worth of football. How crazy is that? Like, it just feels like it was yesterday that it was week 1 and we were all excited and the scores were 0-0. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Week 1 is always so unpredictable all over the NFL. Teams that look good play bad. Teams that are looking to be bad play good. You never know what's going to happen. Kind of like week 17, maybe week 18 at that. But week 18 is a whole different story because a lot of teams, they don't play their starters if they're going to the playoffs. It's just kind of like second or third stringers, you know. And then D-Rock saying, we're going to beat Edgar Allan Pope out of a race. I like your use of the words there, my friend. And the boss, Johnny Bach, is saying, I thought you said go, Bo, go. Listen, probably for the continuation of this week, there's going to be so many doubters. There's going to be so many people going forward, and I'm talking about people outside of Broncos country, not us fans. Because if you're a real orange and blue fan like I am, even with my glasses on, you believe that the Broncos can beat anybody, regardless of how tough the other matchup is. Because you believe in this team, just like you believe in Bo Nix. Now, I said after, well, I didn't actually say it, but, well, did I say it? I don't remember. But I'll reiterate it. The one thing that I didn't like from that Saints game about Bo Nix is that he played, it kind of looked like he was still playing from week 1 Bo Nix. I mean, Honey Badger had a pick right in his hands and he dropped it. That should have been intercepted. And then in one play, Bo Nix threw over his, I think it was his tight end, in between his tight end and his wide receiver. So it looked pretty rocky. The Javonte Williams tour, it looked like it started in New Orleans, and unfortunately it crash landed in Denver. We didn't get anything more from the running game. So hopefully that changes because we're going to need both the running game and the passing game to keep the Ravens on their toes and keep them guessing as to what the next play is going to be. So I'm glad that he turned it around, and I'm really hoping that what we saw this past weekend against the Panthers was the Bo Nix coming out party, and not just because it was the Panthers that the Broncos could do like all this crazy stuff that they were doing where Cortland Sutton on a 4th down play just threw the ball. It was kind of cool to see because I never thought Cortland could throw a pass like that, but he made it, and it was just Sean Payton playing with his food. So whether you like it or you don't like it, it is what it is. So with that being said, folks, we're going to jump in a little bit early into my favorite part of today's show, which is a segment, in case you guys haven't heard it before, called Broncos Talk OT. And I promise you, we're working on a transition video, but unfortunately it hasn't been ready yet as far as I know. So when that happens, you'll be the first to know about it. But basically, for those of you who haven't heard about this part of the show, this is just kind of me talking about anything and all things outside of the Broncos country football. If I can try to find a way to bring it back to the Broncos, I do. But there's just always so much going around the NFL that sometimes I feel like I like to share with you guys. So the last two, I think this is our third time running Broncos Talk OT, and it's gotten some pretty good not reviews, uh comments, I guess you could say. But it's just I just go down the list looking at the matchups for this upcoming week and give my personal thoughts. And if you guys have any personal thoughts on whether you agree or disagree with me on what my thoughts are for these upcoming matchups, please let me know right now if you're watching us live here in the comments. If you're listening to us after the fact, leave a comment or question on either the podcast where you're listening to, or hit me up on Twitter at a 6'10" Mexican. As always, I'm happy and all to talk about any and all things football. So the bye teams this week were the 49ers and the Steelers. Last week there were no bye teams. So that was kind of weird. I don't know if we've ever had a season where there were no bye teams in between bye weeks. I don't know if that makes any sense. But the Thursday night matchup is the Texans versus the Jets. Now, we'll say this is going to be a kind of crazy game because the Texans just lost Stephon Diggs yesterday to an ACL tear, so he's done for the season. CJ Stroud still doesn't have Nico Collins back yet. He's got Tank Dell and whatever else is waiting in the wings. So, and the Texans are 6-2. So it'll be interesting to see what the Texans do. Do they trade for a wide receiver to just kind of keep giving CJ Stroud weapons until Nico Collins comes back, or just to keep an array of weapons on hand as they can try to make a playoff push? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but what I can tell you is that compared to what CJ Stroud was last year, it's a big step back to what I thought he'd be this year. And I'm not just saying that because I have him on my fantasy team, but that's just the kind of honest truth. I mean, last year CJ Stroud was putting up 3-4 touchdowns easily a game, and now he struggles to put up 1 or 2 at most. So, but they're going up against the Jets. Now, Aaron Rodgers and these New York Jets have been the headline for all the wrong reasons these last few weeks. Ever since they fired Robert Saleh, and now Robert Saleh's got like some weird position with the Packers in terms of I don't know what that title was they gave him, but I think that entire organization screwed up. They honestly are. Nobody over there knows what they're doing. Not the owner, Woody Johnson, not Aaron Rodgers, whoever the hell their interim coach is. Nobody knows what the frick's going on, except for Aaron Rodgers. But apparently Aaron Rodgers can do whatever he wants and say whatever he wants, and he gets it. I don't know if I said this on the show last time, but to this freaking day, I don't know why they went and got a wide receiver. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any time in the freaking pocket. And you would figure that they would go and get somebody to help protect him, give him more time. So far, Garrett Wilson and Lazard have seen more passes thrown to them than Devontae Adams has since he's become a Jet. He's just mostly out there doing cardio and being a decoy at best. He has got a couple of balls here and there, but nowhere near as to what people thought mostly Aaron Rodgers thought he'd be in their earlier days in Green Bay, where they were just a force to be reckoned with. So they lost to a team that just a few weeks ago they embarrassed on national TV. And they lost to them. So if that isn't embarrassing, I don't know what is. Especially when the Jets on paper look to be the better team. And they already had the experience playing the Patriots. And they lost. So just keep in mind, folks, as we go forward, they still have to play the Dolphins and the Bills. Even the Dolphins with Tua, they're a really respectable team. And Tyreek Hill is probably going to run, even with Sauce Gardner. I mean, Jesus Christ. Don't be surprised if the Jets get swept by the Bills. The Bills, I'm definitely going out on a limb and saying that they're going to get swept by the Bills. They may split with Miami, but that's just depending on how beat up Miami is when they come up to their matchup and if Tua is still playing. But for me, I think the Texans are going to win this game. And don't take what I say for like 100% because I haven't filled out my my confidence sheet. A lot of these picks are on the money. Some of them might change, but if you were to ask me right now, I'm going to pick the Texans to beat the Jets just for the simple fact that even without Stephon Diggs, I mean the Jets just can't get out of their own way. And now Aaron Rodgers has to deal with Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, two very good pass rushers. And if his offensive line can't give him time to throw the ball, even I don't know, maybe Bryce Hall has a good day at the office. Who knows? You know. Mundungus Creevy, he's saying to Don, hey, Mundungus, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, man. Oh, by the way, shout out to your son's football team, man. Sorry that they didn't make it any further they did, but hey, they made it as far as they could. I'm really happy for them, and I really do hope that they make it farther to a championship title in the future, man. Shout out to your kids' football team. By the way, just a sidebar before we continue, Mundungus looks a lot. If you guys play Madden, the recent Madden, I still don't know why they didn't include Sean Payton in the game as the head coach. If you look at the head coach for the Broncos, it looks a lot like Mundungus, almost exactly like him, except maybe without the long beard. But when I was playing my Madden game yesterday, I just realized that, and I thought it was hilarious. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the first Sunday night game is the Cowboys versus the Falcons. The Cowboys got embarrassed this past weekend against a depleted 49ers team, and it didn't look good. It looked really bad. And who was it? Somebody told me that the Cowboys lost because they didn't have DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and I forgot some other player on their defense. That's why they lost. And my rebuttal to that is you guys had all those guys when you faced the Lions and you still got smacked. You guys still had all those guys when you faced the Saints and you still got smacked. So them not being in there and Dak only seeming to be a great quarterback in garbage time, you think the Jets have problems. The Cowboys have even bigger problems. And their bigger problem is that Jerry Jones refuses to give up power so that the team can improve. And unfortunately, that's going to be the sad reality of things in Dallas for quite a while. And that ship is going to continue to burn and sink to the bottom of the ocean. And there's no one saving it until Jerry Jones gives up control. And unfortunately, we know that there's only one thing that can happen that's going to happen, unfortunately, before that does. But they're playing the Falcons. Kirko Chains, man. Kirko Chains, the way the Falcons beat up. Oh, was it the Falcons? I'm sorry, that was the Bills. But the Falcons won their last game, and it kind of looks like the Falcons have found their footing. And I know Kyle Pitts had a pretty good day on National Tight Ends Day. Oh, they played the Bucks. That's right. So it was their second matchup against the Bucks. It wasn't as exhilarating and exciting as their first matchup, but they swept the Buccaneers. So they now own that division. And this is a team that the Broncos are gonna see in a few weeks. So that's gonna be a tough matchup between kind of like what they're talking about, movable force and unstoppable logic type of thing. But for me, I'm gonna say the Falcons beat the Cowboys because Kirko Chains, I mean, he's starting to find his groove. Justin Simmons, I mean, continues to be a big. I don't know if he actually played this past week. I think he was hurt, but when you give a guy that type of confidence and a guy like Kirk Cousins, man, he's starting to kind of look like the Kirko Chains before he went down when he was in Minnesota. The Broncos and the Ravens are the second game. Obviously, we talked about that today. Go Broncos, always and forever. Miami and Buffalo. Oof, another AFC East divisional game. You know what? I'm glad that Tua is back, but the thing that kind of broke my heart is when he slid and everybody in the stadium cheered. Like the fact that you're cheering for a guy not to get killed on the field, I mean, it's kind of diabolical in a way and kind of dark. Like I know why they cheered. It was meant with good intention, but when you look at the meaning behind it, it's like I'm praying for you, Tua. But unfortunately, the Dolphins paid this man a lot of money, and we've seen over the last couple of weeks that this offense cannot work without him. So, but for him to come back, and unfortunately, they lost last week against the Cardinals. They should have beat that team. And unfortunately, they're going into this game 2-5 against the Buffalo Bills, who are the ones that put the shellacking on the Seahawks. And the way the Buffalo Bills played Seattle was how I expected Denver to play Seattle back in week 1. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But Josh Allen, I'm not sure if this is the game where Von Miller comes back. If it's not this one, it's the following one when the suspension's over. But once they get Von in there, I mean, the Bills have Amari Cooper. They have a resurgence in Keon Coleman. What was that other young man's name? Khalil Shakur, I think. Uh, so they got their. They may not have Diggs anymore, but they may have been able to find something with Amari Cooper. And even though he wasn't a factor this past week, that first game against the Browns, they, whew, man, like that's gonna be scary. But unfortunately, the Miami Dolphins, even though their offense is kind of starting to get back into gear, their defense is totally and not working very well. Uh, so I think that they're going to lose this game. So I'm going to give it to the Bills. And probably like the worst game out of the entire Sunday lineup, and that's the Saints and the Panthers. Again, as I said at the beginning of the show, the one beautiful thing about this episode is the fact that I came on here and I said that the Broncos beat the shellacking out of both of these teams in back-to-back weeks with a mini bye in the middle of it. So um, I honestly don't know who to pick here. I mean, Spencer Rattler, he's not the guy. He plays as a backup. Bryce Young, unfortunately, is so broken. But if I had to pick one, I'm probably going to say the Saints, just for the simple fact that the Saints defense is better than the Panthers defense. And it might be the Saints, unless they make any changes in terms of trading their best players before Sunday's game, like they trade off Lattimore or Cam Jordan or any one of those other guys. I don't think so. Unless Andy Dalton comes back. If Andy Dalton plays, Andy Dalton probably gives them a better chance of winning and kind of tying the series up and getting some sort of redemption from that week 1. I don't think Derek Carr is back. I think he's still on IR, so he's more than likely not going to play. And Spencer, I mean, that could be a game that just comes down to field goals. If I'm being honest. Oh man, that's going to be a terrible game. But I'm going to say Saints win that one, and the Panthers continue to circle the drain and be the number 1 top pick. Raiders and Bengals. Of course, I'm never going to pick the Raiders unless it's like a divisional game and it's not the Broncos. It'd probably be the only time. But the Bengals, they're going to be playing with a lot of fire. I know they're embarrassed about losing that game to Philly. That was a game that they felt that they should have won. I thought so too. And the fact that they lost it in that fashion was just no bueno. And the Raiders they're just so broken. I have no faith in Gardner Minshew. Aiden O'Connell, I think, is on the IR. So who knows what the hell's going to happen with him. Their defense is just kind of like wherever. Max Crosby might be even traded before the deadline. I'm hearing rumors that he might go to Detroit because Detroit is in heavy need of a pass rusher help type of guy. So, but even then, I think that the Bengals are going to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I don't think he played this past week. I think he was hurt. So if he does play, that gives the Bengals better options. But they do have Yosevas, which I'm kind of surprised. I don't know if he's hurt, but he was when he won me a couple of fantasy weekend games earlier this season before T. Higgins came back. So I'm surprised he hasn't been a factor with Higgins out. But still, I think the Bengals are the better team and they're playing at home. So I'm going to give it to them. Chargers and Browns. I can't pick the Chargers because I hate the Chargers. So I'm just going to say Cleveland. The fact that the Browns are playing better with famous Jameis instead of Massage Watson that just tells you something. And I think the writing is on the wall. I think the Browns are gonna do exactly what the Broncos did next season, and they're just gonna cut and take the hit. It's gonna be a lot of money, but I feel like the Browns have dragged their name through the mud ever since Deshaun Watson came to Cleveland long enough. And there is no way in hell that there is somebody in that office that regrets letting Baker Mayfield walk or go or cut or whatever happened to him. Just getting rid of Mayfield altogether. Yes, he's not having the best of seasons in Tampa Bay, but hey, it's not his fault. His best main weapons got hurt. But when he has them, look the hell out. But I think the Browns probably do enough to win this game. The Chargers are kind of there's just something about I know Lad McConkey's had a pretty good game last week, but I feel like J.K. Dobbins is taking a huge step back. The Chargers running game is not exactly there, especially after that one a rookie running back kind of had his moment in the sun against my Broncos, which I still hate to say, but he hasn't been heard of since that game. So I think the Chargers are going to fumble that one, and I hope that they do. The Commanders and the Giants. Well, this was a no-brainer. The Commanders are riding a wave so high. They beat a Bears defense that was pretty formidable coming out of the bye week, one of the best defenses in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And they're 6-2, and they're taking on the Giants, who are 2-6, and literally embarrassed themselves in front of the Steelers this past week on Monday Night Football. Daniel Jones, this could be the game where Daniel Jones just gets benched and the Giants just take the dead cap hit and go with Drew Lock. I mean, at this point, there's really not much else the Giants can do. They have a really good player in Malik Neighbors. It's not like they're going to trade him. They just got him. So it's pretty much over for the Giants, I would say. But there's nothing you can tell them where they couldn't do some damage along the way type of thing, or try to anyway. But I'm going to say Commanders on that one. And by the way, Jaden Daniels, shout out to that guy. That guy's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, as much as I hate to say it, but he beat the number 1 draft pick in this year's NFL draft. Just goes to show you, hey, did Chicago pick the wrong guy? Time will tell. New England Patriots against the Titans. Mason Rudolph. I don't know. This is another one of those games. Jacoby Brissett, I think, is still probably going to start. I don't think Drake May clears a concussion I think he has a concussion. If he clears it, even better. But if he doesn't, he has to sit out one more week. I think that Jacoby Brissett can do just enough to beat the Titans. The fact that the Titans have one win, and that was against a really crappy Miami team, just goes to show you like how much in shambles that team is. But the Patriots do good enough to beat really bad teams. That's why they beat the Jets. So I'm going to pick the Patriots on this one to beat the Titans, just because I have and the Titans just got walloped by the Lions. I mean, they had 51 points dropped on their head. They're in a hole that's probably as deep, if not deeper, than what the Panthers are sitting in right now. The Bears and the Cardinals. The Cardinals are starting to make some noise in the NFC West, and they're probably going to be fighting it out with the Rams, because now that the Rams are healthy and Kyler Murray has beaten teams that normally we thought he'd lose to, and 4-4. So, I mean, I think that the Bears are reeling from the loss against Washington, and they're definitely going to be looking for some payback should they make it to the playoffs and meet up again. But I got to go with Arizona on this one, because for the last 2 weeks I've doubted Arizona, and they've come back and won games this past week was kind of close. They played the Dolphins, and it was Tua's first game back, but unfortunately the Dolphins shot themselves in the foot a couple times, and they weren't able to recoup from that. So, and there's just something about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams looks great beating shitty teams. No lie there. But when it comes to actually putting it, put the work in, so to speak, like he should have done against that Washington defense, it's still trying to find their way into the league, and they couldn't do it. And it wasn't until like literally the end of the game where he finally got a touchdown going. So I'm going to go with Arizona on this one. I think they're going to do just enough to kind of squeal past the Bears. And Arizona seems to be playing better at home than they do on the road. So, except for that one comeback road game, I forget against who it was, but it was pretty close. The Jaguars versus the Eagles. I mean, the Jaguars are starting to trade players away, so the fire sale starting to go down. The Eagles at Vic Fangio defense is starting to take its shape, it looks like, and Jaden Hurts is starting to find his groove, it looks like, as an Eagle. And this could be the game where Doug Peterson gets fired for the second time in Philadelphia, only not as an Eagle. I read that somewhere today, and it cracked me the hell up because it's so true. Because I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. If the Jaguars lose, which is probably more than likely, don't be surprised if they pull the trigger on him and just go with an interim coach for the rest of the season. And then Doug Peterson's going to end up on somebody's coaching staff somewhere next year as an offensive coordinator, I want to say. Detroit Lions versus the Packers. Now, this one's a hard one. Giggity. I couldn't really decide because these are two really good teams. The only way I'm going to make this decision is if Malik Willis plays. I know he's played pretty good in Jordan Reed's absence, but the Packers haven't faced anybody like the Lions yet. Not even in that kind of crappy week 1 showdown in Brazil against the Eagles. If Jordan Love plays, then I'll probably still roll with the Lions. But with this, especially this type of division game where these 4 teams are literally really close to trying to be the NFC King of the North, I'm probably still going to roll with Detroit. But I'll be more comfortable if it was Jordan Love facing off against Jared Goff instead of Malik Willis. But either way, I'm still going to go with the Lions. I just think that the Lions offense is playing some really great freaking football. Some of the best that they've seen in years, and it's probably the best in the NFC. And they're definitely going to be more than likely be the number 1 seed if they keep playing like that going into the end of the season and into the postseason. So go Lions, go. Rams against the Seahawks, another divisional game. Woohoo, baby. All these divisional games. I'm excited. Matt Stafford, now that he has Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and with Kyron Williams, I mean, that's a crazy 3-headed monster right there. And we saw last weekend what they were able to do against the Vikings. So, and that was a game that I had the Rams losing. I thought the Vikings were going to stomp them out, and unfortunately it didn't happen. And by the way, sidebar, that whole, like, I get it, the refs missed an obvious face mask call, but even if the Vikings get that, there wasn't enough time, and I really don't think Sam Darnold had enough time to march down that field and get the necessary points. So I'm not saying don't be mad about the missed call, but be mad just about that. Don't be mad and saying that it cost them the game, because it wasn't like it was down to a field goal or a touchdown. It was maybe much more than that. The Seahawks, they got stomped by the Bills. There's just something about Geno Smith that I just don't think. I don't know if it's Geno Smith or the fact that Pete Carroll's not there. The defense is starting to kind of go backwards. They really should have played it a lot closer to the Bills, and they didn't. And they unfortunately lost. So, and this is a divisional game. The Rams are going to play them tough. If Puka and Kupp weren't in this, I'd totally say Seattle had this in the bag. But there's just so many ways that the Rams can beat you. They can beat you in the ground. They can beat you in the air. Puka, I know he did look a little bit rusty in his first game back last week, but he had the mini bye week to kind of heal and come back. And the defense is going to really have their work cut out for them. But I'm going to say the Rams. I think the Rams are going to beat them. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they get swept at this point. Again, I don't trust Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker's a really good running back. I know he ran crazy on my Broncos week 1, but when he can't get going and he just can't get it going, Seattle's just literally stuck, even with DK Metcalf. who's probably going to be playing hurt, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Sunday night football game, which I'm surprised didn't get flexed, the Colts and the Vikings. And Joe Flacco, if you guys didn't know, was put in the game, and Anthony Richardson got benched. So the Colts are definitely win now mode. Don't be surprised if they make a surprise trade somewhere to try to get Joe Flacco some help. But is it good enough to beat the Vikings? I don't know. Honestly, like I I'm so torn over the Vikings because I think the Vikings have lost their did they've lost their last 2 games, right? Yeah. I think they lost their last 2 games, and they're trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak. And yeah, because 5-2. So yeah, they've lost their last 2 games, and they're trying to avoid a 3-game winning streak. Now, can Sam Darnold and the offense kind of find their footing back? Can that Brian Flores defense kind of, tighten back up and be that really scary defense that we saw them be at the beginning of the season and play Joe Flacco real close? I don't know. But if I had to guess, I'm going to actually pick against Minnesota this time, and I'm going to go with the Colts. If it was Anthony Richardson, I'd say my Minnesota had this in the bag. But there's just something about Joe Flacco that, man, especially like I said, if they maybe reinforce the line or get him another wide receiver or maybe on defense to kind of give the ball back to Joe Flacco. I don't know. But there's something about Joe Flacco where he's starting to kind of, make another run for comeback player of the year again, maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to go with him. I'm going to say the Colts beat the Vikings. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, wrapping up the Broncos OT is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Chiefs. Now, I'm just going to go off and say Tampa Bay, even though I know Tampa Bay is playing hurt right now. And it's probably not likely that they'll beat the Chiefs just for the simple fact that Baker doesn't have Godwin and Evans. But I can't pick the Chiefs. Even though I know the Chiefs is the safer bet, I'd much rather lose some type of money or points picking the Bucks instead of saying I got them with the Chiefs. So I'm just gonna say the Bucks. But it's not looking likely. Don't be surprised if the Chiefs run away with that one, and it's not one of those like, hey, Patrick Mahomes had another crappy game type of thing. The Tampa Bay, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's like cats singing outside my house. But I'm going to say that Tampa Bay runs away, or not runs away, but wins that game. And if I'm right, I'm probably going to try to do a cartwheel or something. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, that does it for the Broncos OT. And before I forget, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have stuck around from the very beginning of this episode, I told you I had a very special announcement. And if you've been reading the chat, for those of you that are live, there's somebody in this chat that has already given away the special announcement. And I'm looking right at it, and I'm pretty sure some of you guys already know what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Mahai Viking called me the other day. I think I was at the airport, I was somewhere in Denver. And he reignited an idea that I had in my head that I've been thinking about for the longest time. For like a year or so. And it was about doing another show and bringing it here on the network. And basically that show was an all out and only Spanish podcast. And the name of it, Viva los Broncos. And Johnny took that idea and started thinking, even after I kind of put it on the shelf for a while, and he remembered about it. And he called me the other day and he says, hey, I have an idea for the show in terms of a co-host, because I told him probably one of the hardest things to do would probably be a co-host, or hardest things to do was to find a co-host. Because the thing about the show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying you can't tune in and listen to it, but it's only going to be in Spanish. So, nada más vamos a hablar en español, así como les estoy hablando ahorita. Así va a ser desde el empiezo hasta el fin, which means it's only going to be in Spanish from the beginning all the way to the end. So, Johnny reached out, and if you guys haven't seen uh Bronco shoot, I had his picture up. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Uh Stay with me here. I had it and I lost it. Uh Kind of weird seeing myself watching myself, if that makes any sense. But he reached out. I cannot find it. Here we go. Let me see if I remember how to do this right. Okay. So this right here is my good friend E. And E is part of the Bronco Lucha. And that's him on the cover of Sunday's program. Like, how amazing is that? And when Johnny told me, like, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was amazing. And E is going to come and be my partner, my co-host on um on Viva los Broncos. So I can't wait to have him on the show. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. We still have a couple of things to iron out in terms of details and intro and all that good stuff. Bronco Libre. I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. Bronco Libre. Uh, but I hope if you guys don't understand Spanish, I totally understand. But if you know anybody that's a Broncos fan and that listens to or wants to listen to this in Spanish, I highly encourage you guys to help us spread the word. Uh, but make sure you guys are tuned in, signed into, and following us on all of our socials so you get live information, up to date info as it becomes available about when the show is going to launch, when it airs, what day, and what time you can find it. Okay. So uh, I can't wait. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about it. Johnny's got, he's been our back, our supporter, and he's going to help us guide us through this entire process and help bring another great show to the platform. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode of Broncos Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sorry for yapping your ear off all this time for too long. But again, please make sure you follow us on all the links you see here on the Orange and Blue Network. Subscribe, share, comment, and like. There are so many shows we have here for you guys to listen to. And as I just told you guys, we have another great show on the way. So please make sure you like and subscribe and share to get the word out. Also, a simulcast on the MHRT network. Please make sure you like and subscribe and share their content as well. They have a lot of great programming on there as well. You just saw Mundungus, who is the owner and founder of MHRT, here in the chat earlier. So shout out to him. Thank you so much for stopping in and talking Broncos with us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any business inquiries, you can email me at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can hit me up at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always happy to and down to talk about any and all things football. If you're listening to us after the fact, please make sure you like and subscribe anywhere it is, wherever it is you guys get your podcast from: Apple, Google, Amazon, all those good places. Subscribe, send me a screenshot so that I know that you guys are doing out there, helping out. You're doing your part to support the show. Please make sure you subscribe and leave reviews so that way we know you are watching the show, and then so we can try to find ways, if there's ways you don't feel that we're not bringing up to par, how we can be better. Of course, and as always, I say, please continue to support any and all forms of Broncos media out there. Show your support. There are a lot of great podcasts out there that, even though they're not part of these networks, folks, there's still great articles. There's still great things to listen to in terms of orange and blue. And some of them are even smarter than me. So always down and happy to say, please help show your support. And then D-Rock, before we leave, saying, oh, yeah, McGlinchey is hurt. Well, if that isn't something to go out on, I don't know what better way to do it. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. My name is Adan Diaz, and it has been my pleasure being your host tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night, good morning, whatever it is you're listening to this podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ravens, you're going down because it is time, ladies and gentlemen. Show your support and say it with me. Let's go, Broncos!